Act 1. The Rock. In the middle of the cold, treacherous waters of San Francisco Bay lies a small, rocky island. For centuries, it was a desolate, windswept place, home only to seabirds. But in the 1930s, it was transformed into a symbol of ultimate, inescapable punishment. This was Alcatraz, America's first supermax federal prison. It was not a prison for ordinary criminals. It was a prison for the worst of the worst, the most violent, the most notorious, and the most incorrigible inmates in the federal system. It housed infamous gangsters like Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly. Alcatraz was designed to be more than just a prison. It was designed to be a fortress, a place where hope died. The authorities boasted that it was escape-proof, surrounded by frigid, shark-infested waters with powerful, unpredictable currents, and with a prisoner-to-guard ratio far higher than any other prison. The message was clear. No one escapes from Alcatraz. For nearly 30 years, that boast held true. But in 1962, 3 men, armed with little more than spoons, ingenuity, and an unbreakable will to be free, would challenge that claim, staging one of the most daring, complex, and legendary prison breaks in history, leaving behind a mystery that endures to this day. Life on Alcatraz was a monotonous, soul-crushing routine. The rules were brutally rigid, the silence enforced, the isolation absolute. It was designed to break a man's spirit. But for a prisoner named Frank Morris, it was a challenge. Morris was a man of superior intelligence, with an IQ reportedly in the top 2% of the population. But he had spent a third of his life in and out of prisons for a variety of crimes. He was a career criminal and a known escape artist. His arrival at Alcatraz in 1960 set the stage for the impossible. At Alcatraz, Morris reconnected with 2 men he had known from a previous prison stint. The brothers John and Clarence Anglin. The Anglin brothers were tough, resourceful bank robbers from a large, close-knit family. Together, these 3 men, along with a 4th inmate, a car thief named Alan West, who was the technical mastermind of the group, began to formulate a plan. It was a plan of breathtaking audacity and meticulous detail, a year-long project that required patience, deception, and incredible ingenuity. Their escape route was through the very walls of their cells. The concrete in the aging cell house had been weakened over the years by the salt-laced sea air. The prisoners discovered that the ventilation duct under the sink in each of their cells, a small 6x9-inch grate, could be chipped away. This duct led into an unguarded utility corridor that ran the length of the cell block. This corridor was their secret highway to freedom. For months, during the nightly music hour, when prisoners were allowed to play instruments, the men took turns using smuggled or improvised tools, a sharpened spoon, a drill bit from a vacuum cleaner motor, to slowly, painstakingly chip away at the concrete around the vent. To hide their work, they created fake ventilation grates out of painted cardboard. It was a slow, nerve-wracking process, a race against the constant threat of discovery by the guards. But getting into the corridor was only the first step. They needed a way to fool the guards during the nightly bed checks. The solution was as ingenious as it was macabre. For months, they collected hair from the prison barbershop. Using a mixture of soap, toothpaste, and toilet paper, they created astonishingly lifelike dummy heads. They painted them with flesh-toned paint from the prison art kit and attached real human hair. At night, when they left their cells to work, they would place these dummy heads on their pillows, tucked under the blankets, creating the illusion of a sleeping man. The deception was perfect. Night after night, the guards peered into the darkened cells and saw only what they expected to see, never realizing the men they were guarding were gone. Act 2. The Workshop of Freedom. While the dummy heads fooled the guards below, a secret workshop was buzzing with activity in the dark, dusty utility corridor above the cell block. Frank Morris, the Anglin brothers, and Alan West had turned this forgotten space into their clandestine headquarters. Here, They gathered their materials and constructed the tools they would need for the final, most dangerous phase of their escape, crossing the treacherous waters of San Francisco Bay. Their greatest challenge was building a raft. They needed a vessel that was lightweight enough to carry up to the roof, yet buoyant and sturdy enough to withstand the bay's powerful currents. The solution came from an unlikely source: prison-issued raincoats. Over a period of months, the conspirators managed to steal or acquire more than 50 of these rubberized cotton raincoats. In their secret workshop, using stolen cement and a heat source from the prison steam pipes, they painstakingly glued the raincoats together, creating large, waterproof panels. It was a slow, difficult process, a feat of primitive engineering conducted in almost total darkness. They also needed life vests to survive the frigid water. They created these by sealing the sleeves of the raincoats and trapping air inside. To inflate their raft, they fashioned a concertina-like bellows from a stolen musical instrument. They even carved wooden paddles from pieces of scrap wood. Every single element of their plan was a testament to their resourcefulness and their unyielding determination. The utility corridor was no longer just a corridor. It was a factory, a secret shipyard, a laboratory of freedom. Their final obstacle within the prison walls was reaching the roof. From the utility corridor, they climbed up the network of pipes and conduits to the very top of the cell block, a space 3 stories high. From there, they found a large air vent in the ceiling. Over many nights, Morris, a man with a natural gift for mechanics, managed to loosen the bolts on the heavy iron grate covering the vent, using a homemade wrench. They were now just one step away from the open sky. The plan was set for the night of June 11th, 1962. It was a foggy, moonless night, perfect for an escape, but they encountered a last-minute problem. Alan West, the fourth conspirator, could not get out of his cell. The fake grate he had made had hardened and gotten stuck in the concrete. As the others waited for him in the corridor, he struggled frantically but couldn't dislodge it. Time was running out. Morris and the Anglin brothers were faced with a difficult choice: wait for West and risk being discovered, or go on without him. They made the cold, hard decision to leave him behind. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers squeezed through the narrow opening in their cells, leaving their dummy heads behind in their beds. They climbed up the pipes to the roof of the cell block, carrying their makeshift raft and equipment. They opened the air vent, climbed out onto the prison roof, and for the first time in years, they were under the open sky. They were out, but they were not yet free. The most dangerous part of their journey was still ahead: the cold, dark waters of the Rock. Act 3. The Vanishing. Under the cover of darkness and a thick San Francisco fog, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers navigated the labyrinth of pipes and rooftops of Alcatraz. They shimmied down a large exterior pipe on the side of the cell house, landing silently on the ground. They were now in the prison yard, a place where any misstep would expose them to the searchlights of the guard towers. Staying in the shadows, they made their way to the northeastern shore of the island, the one spot that was a blind spot for the guard towers. Here, in a secluded area near the warden's house, they began to inflate their makeshift raft. It was a tense, desperate race against time. The sound of their concertina bellows was a soft, rhythmic whisper against the backdrop of the crashing waves and the distant foghorns of the bay. Sometime between 10:30 p.m. and 11:30 p.m., they launched their small, rubberized raft into the treacherous, frigid waters of San Francisco Bay. Their intended destination was likely Angel Island, a large wooded island just 2 miles north of Alcatraz. From there, they planned to cross a small channel to the mainland, steal a car, and then disappear, splitting up to go their separate ways. It was a well-thought-out plan, but the bay is a notoriously dangerous body of water. The water temperature that night was a life-threatening 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and the currents were powerful and unpredictable. Their lives now depended on a raft made of raincoats and glue, and their own physical endurance. As they paddled away from the rock, they vanished into the fog and into legend. Back in the cell house, their dummy heads performed their duty perfectly. The guards made their nightly counts, their flashlights sweeping over the sleeping figures, and saw nothing amiss. It wasn't until the morning count on June 12th that a guard, unable to rouse one of the Anglin brothers, reached through the bars and knocked the dummy head to the floor. The alarm was sounded. Alcatraz, the escape-proof prison, had been breached. The prison was immediately put on lockdown. A massive search of the island began. When they discovered Alan West's predicament, he began to sing. Fearing he would be implicated as an accessory to the escape, West told the investigators everything. He detailed their year-long plan, the construction of the raft, the dummy heads, and their intended destination. His confession provided the FBI with an astonishingly detailed roadmap of the entire conspiracy. A massive air, sea, and land search was launched, one of the largest in history. The Coast Guard and the FBI scoured the waters of the bay and the shores of Angel Island and the surrounding mainland. For 10 days they searched, hoping to find either the men or their bodies. They found tantalizing but ultimately inconclusive clues. A small, sealed, rubberized bag was found floating near Angel Island, containing personal items like letters and photographs that belonged to the Anglin brothers, suggesting it had been tied to the raft. A day later, a half-inflated life vest, of the type they had made, was found off the coast of Cronkite Beach, north of the Golden Gate Bridge. But of the raft itself, and of the 3 men, there was no sign. The FBI's official position has always been that the men did not survive. They concluded that the prisoners, struggling to navigate the powerful currents in their makeshift raft, likely drowned in the frigid waters of the bay. They believe the men's bodies were swept out to sea through the Golden Gate, lost forever to the Pacific Ocean. For the authorities, the case was simple. The men had escaped from the prison, but they had not escaped from the bay. Officially, they were listed as missing and presumed drowned. Alcatraz, they maintained, had ultimately held its reputation. But with no bodies ever recovered, a profound and enduring question mark has always hung over the case. A question that has fueled a half-century of speculation and a tantalizing possibility. What if they made it? Act 4. The survival theory. While the FBI officially closed their case, the story of the Alcatraz escape was far from over in the public's imagination. The official verdict of presumed drowned has always been challenged by a tantalizing body of evidence, eyewitness accounts, and expert analysis that suggests a much more incredible outcome. That Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers actually made it to shore and vanished into the world as free men. The foundation of the survival theory lies in the meticulous nature of the prisoner's plan. These were not desperate, panicked men. They were intelligent, patient, and incredibly resourceful. They had spent over a year planning every minute detail of their escape. Is it plausible that men this careful would have overlooked the most critical part of their plan? Surviving the bay? Proponents of this theory think not. They point to the tides. Modern analysis, including a famous experiment conducted by Dutch scientists, has shown that if the prisoners launched their raft at the optimal time, around 11:30 p.m., the tides and currents of the bay would not have swept them out to the Pacific. Instead, the currents would have actually helped them, pushing them north towards Angel Island, their intended destination. The discovery of the life vest and the personal belongings near Angel Island, which the FBI saw as proof of their demise, is seen by survival theorists as proof that they actually reached their target. Perhaps the bag of personal items was intentionally left behind as a red herring. Then there are the eyewitness accounts. For years after the escape, reports trickled in of sightings of the 3 men. There was a report of a stolen car in the area on the night of the escape. A Norwegian ship captain reported seeing a body floating in the water a few weeks later. But it was not the body of a prisoner. Most compellingly, The Anglin family has always maintained that they received communication from the brothers after the escape. They have claimed to have received postcards and cryptic messages over the years. The family has also produced a photograph, allegedly taken in Brazil in 1975, that they claim shows the two Anglin brothers, alive and well, living on a farm. Forensic analysis of the photo has been inconclusive, but for the family, it is proof that their boys made it. In 2013, the case took another stunning turn. A letter, allegedly written by an elderly John Anglin, was sent to the San Francisco Police Department. The author of the letter claimed that all three men had survived the escape, but that he was the last one alive. He wrote, "I'm 83 years old and in bad shape. I have cancer." He offered to turn himself in exchange for a 1-year prison sentence and medical treatment. The FBI conducted a forensic analysis of the letter, but the results were, once again, inconclusive. Was it the final, desperate confession of a dying man, or just another elaborate hoax in a story already filled with them? These clues, when pieced together, create a compelling counter-narrative to the official story. It's a narrative of a perfectly executed plan, of three men who beat an unbeatable system, who conquered the rock, and who lived out the rest of their lives as free men, a final secret victory over the authorities who had locked them away. Act 5. The enduring legend of the rock. The 1962 escape was a fatal blow to the reputation and the viability of Alcatraz. The prison that was built to be escape-proof had been defeated by three men with spoons and raincoats. The cost of the massive manhunt, combined with the escalating costs of maintaining the crumbling, salt-damaged prison, made it an unsustainable venture. Less than a year after the escape, in March of 1963, Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary was officially closed forever. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers did more than just escape. They effectively shut down America's most infamous prison. The case has never been officially closed. The U.S. Marshal Service, which inherited the case from the FBI, still has active warrants for the three men. On the 50th anniversary of the escape in 2012, they officially stated that they will continue to pursue the fugitives until their 100th birthdays. But for most, the case is a legend, a piece of modern American folklore. The story has been immortalized in books and most famously in the 1979 Clint Eastwood film, Escape from Alcatraz. The film, which vividly recreated the escape in meticulous detail, cemented the story in the public consciousness and championed the idea that the men had, in fact, survived. So what is the final verdict? Did they make it? The truth is, we will likely never know for sure. The mystery endures because there is compelling evidence on both sides. It is a perfect balance of probability and possibility. It is the story of a cold, hard fortress and the three men who, through sheer force of will and ingenuity, may have just been clever enough to defeat it. The rock was designed to crush the human spirit, but the story of the 1962 escape is a powerful, enduring testament to the one thing that no prison can ever truly contain: the unbreakable desire to be free.